Meeting of the Opioid Settlement Fund Committee meeting is called to order at 3 o'clock today on Monday, March 11th, 2024. The agenda has been passed out. Does anyone have any amendments to it? All right. We will move forward as such. There is a busy agenda, so I'm just going to ask that public comment just be held until public comment, just because there are a couple things that we do have to get through as a committee, if we don't mind. And going forward, so discussion on the first agenda item, a discussion on upcoming committee seat openings. So in April, seats will start to revolve again and become open. So if anyone is interested in joining, stepping down, selectmen would be our contact. Let them know. And for staff, conversation would be between selectmen and Scott about that situation. Anyone have anything further?
I just got a question about it. Those who live in Abington that were appointed last year, do they need to tell them you still want to be on it, or will that be automatically assumed?
Let's reach out. I'm going to say let's reach out and let them know that we want to continue, if you want to continue.
Okay.
Just to, so that if there is no miscommunication whatsoever.
Okay.
So one way or the other, we'll let the selectmen know from everyone sitting on the committee how we feel.
Okay.
All right. All right. Anything further? All right. And as promised from previous meetings, discussion and possible vote on our new meeting schedule. I know that there was a question of times not working for everyone involved. So I know that for me, the Monday through Thursday, during the day is going to be when I'm available. Unfortunately, after that 4 o'clock, 4:30 time period, my kids are going to be taking up all of my time with extracurriculars. Okay. So Amy and Lindsay, after 4 would be an issue. Rick, do you have any?
Yeah, this time's awful hard. I basically have to call out for work for an hour to come to meetings. So
Okay, what time?
Evenings tend to work.
Evenings
best,
tend to
so.
work, okay.
But I'm also not sure I'm going to go for reappointment
Okay.
either. So
All right.
it might not matter.
All right, so that works? Any input?
I'm down the hall Monday through Friday, but evenings can be, but I plan to resign from this position after.
Okay. Nora?
So are you thinking about just Monday through Thursday and what
I
times?
just threw out what works for me. So knowing that, going back to discussion point 1, or agenda item 1, if things are going to be shifting on this board committee going forward in April, kind of May, I think if I might throw out there, we might want to wait to see who is appointed and stays on to change a schedule.
Okay.
Would be our best option, rather than changing it and then have to change it again. Peter, do you have any input? I know, I'm sorry, we skipped you before I jumped to that.
That's okay. I'm pretty much free anytime.
Okay.
I'm retired, so life is good.
All right. So if I make the suggestion that we keep the meeting as such, where the committee members could possibly be changing in the short future, and then adjust as needed if we have new committee members. How do we feel about that?
I think we should keep it,
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep things way.
All right.
just for now.
So we're gonna leave it alone.
Keep it for now.
All right. And then, next agenda item is discussion and possible vote if the committee needs to meet more frequently with applications having been accepted to discuss them. I think what we need to do is start reviewing the applications before we can make that judgment. So we did receive 4. And so the health department put an application, and then these are, oh, I'm sorry, we received 5. These are in no particular order.
I have 6.
6? Oh, okay, I lied. I'm so sorry. Counting is a problem for me. So the health department, the school department, the police department, we got one from a private group, Power Forward, a private group, Recovered Souls, and a private group, Abington Copes. So these we need to review, and then discuss amongst the committee members, and then they will be voted on. I don't know, I think we need to have the discussion on when we do that, and when we meet again to vote, and
Do the discussions about this happen here?
that's,
Yeah.
Yes.
I believe they do, yes.
I'm gonna review all these now. And
So yeah, I think we can quickly take a look, or we can
Yeah.
come back and take a look at them and then return in at a future date
So
to make a decision on them.
most of us haven't seen these applications yet, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so just going through them quickly, I mean, I definitely have a few questions.
Yep.
You know, I'd like to maybe have a rep from each group here to be able to talk to them about it.
Okay.
You know, for instance, just kind of going off, there's one with, sorry. Recovered Souls.
Yes.
Quincy.
Yep.
You know, is the 20,000, it's gonna be set aside for Abington residents to access the program? Or is it just kind of more of a pool to help serve the region?
It actually says in it that it's going to be set up for Abington residents
Yeah,
for housing.
but the housing isn't in Abington, it's
It's no,
Yeah.
so as I understand it, as I read it, it looks like create a town of
Initially.
Abington assistance fund, will initiate and oversee the housing assistance process, will review applications.
is there a local sober homes expert, I guess?
You need to read through these.
I know Senator Keenan knows a lot about the sober home process, but
Anyone in particular?
just to make sure, like, we know what to look for before we say that this should have the right. And I think they have it in here that both of them are SAMs qualified, or whatever the term is.
MASH.
MASH qualified.
Yes.
But just to make sure that if we choose to go down that road, that we're going with a vendor who would be, you know, meeting all those good benchmarks we'd want.
Right. They're so subjective, there's so many different. that's
The other
really
thing
tricky.
is, so, we did have a couple that were applied for from entities outside of Abington.
Yeah.
I think it is worth the conversation with, legal to find out because this is Abington opioid specific funds.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of them was Marshfield, one of them was Quincy. Both Marshfield and Quincy have access to their own funds. What we as a committee, what we have to do as far as making sure that this money is protected for Abington. And so I think it's worth the conversation with legal before making any decisions.
And I wouldn't necessarily be opposed, but I feel more comfortable also knowing that this is part of like a regional scale-up effort where instead of having every town try to do 10,000, you know,
Right.
it's pulled together, maybe it's more effective that way, but I'd want a little bit more detail in terms of what they're looking to do. I mean, I know some of the Quincy folks a little bit. I don't know the Marshfield ones.
So one of the Marshfield, someone from the Marshfield application had actually reached out to see if they could be put on the agenda. And we did, but, and they
Yeah.
were aware that the meeting was moved to today.
$40,000 for that one. Just, that's his Narcan.
No, that's a narcotics analyzer, so that's all narcotics. So that is on those two.
That's great.
My suggestion would be if we schedule at our next meeting, basically request someone from each group to come in
Okay,
to answer questions. We can take this time to pull
You
our
have
questions
these.
together. Get that question from town council as to if there's any restrictions on geography. I guess I would also wouldn't mind, maybe hearing an update from the school department, if they're applying for one, kind of what they're seeing.
I believe that, yes, so they did, the
Yeah.
school,
Yep.
the school district did apply. They put in for a $10,000 prevention.
And I guess I'm curious, my question for them would be, how is this different from their current curriculum, wellness curriculum?
Yep. All right.
Do you want to hear from them since they're here?
Yeah, Melissa, where you are, oh, do we have any, do you want to take a look at Melissa's where she's here now?
Sure.
You want to give us a second and we'll just take a look at yours and then we'll see if we have any questions? All right. Before we have Melissa talk, is there any standing set of questions that we want to come up with to ask everyone outside of the application?
I think the big one is just how do you intend to track effectiveness?
Okay,
What's success? How do you define success?
all right. Perfect. Melissa,
Yeah.
throwing you on the spot. You can tell us absolutely not, and you want to do this at the same time everyone else is when they've had time to be invited and come back. Do you mind? So you can either do it now, or you can come back when we have our next meeting. It's up to you.
Well, here,
Yeah, so I was gonna say, you don't have to come up just yet. So we're gonna have reps from all the applications
Yeah.
come back and answer any questions we have.
right.
And so, rather than throwing you on the spot, if you would like to do it now, you're more than welcome. If you would like to come back at the next meeting, when you've had some time to kind of, have some time to prepare to talk to us, knowing that everyone else will have been made aware that, hey, we want you to come back at our next meeting, just to give us kind of to talk about your application. It's up to you if you want to do it today or at the next meeting.
I mean, I guess, what is it you're
So we're-
needing me to say?
So one of the questions that we want to know is, how do you define success? What is the measure in which you're going to track your success?
So I did speak to someone on the committee, and, how do you measure, if
Yeah,
you're asking for
so-
a sober living scholarship, how do you
So
measure success?
So for right now,
Yeah,
I just need to know if you want to do it today, or if you want to think about it and come back when everyone else presents and answers on their applications. I don't want to throw you on the spot now to answer for this, but
Well, I suppose that's all, I mean, I could sit there and go back and if you're wanting to know how I measure success, I have questions about that on my application. Like, how do you measure that?
That's a great question. That's a great
You
question.
know,
That's a great
like,
question.
Yep.
okay, I want to do a activity, because everything I've asked for is from the Attorney General's website. How do I measure if the sober activity went well? You know, I don't know. So,
You see us talking about other organizations who may be outside of Abington. How is yours gonna be different from other?
well, how is it
In
going
your
to be
opinion,
different?
yeah.
Well, we're Abington. So I'm pretty shocked to hear organizations outside of Abington I mean, I'm the only entity in town that focuses on substance use. And I mean, everyone coming to our meetings is Abington. Anybody, I mean, this is what like I've poured my heart into for 2 years. How is it different? Everybody I'm helping is going to be in Abington.
Yep. So, and okay.
Could I ask a couple of general questions about, from what I read in your stuff?
Yeah.
So, are there sober living residences in Abington?
Yes.
There are.
One.
Okay.
Yep. Limitless recovery on, hold on. Lincoln, yeah. It's a men's
Okay.
sober house, yeah.
But the scholarships wouldn't necessarily be for that one, it would be for.
For Abington residents. I mean,
Right, yeah, yeah.
obviously, women cannot go.
Right, right.
So, yeah, we have, on our board is someone who has sober living houses in Quincy. But he could speak at length. And they have certain ones, that they would send people to. Because, some are better than others. Like, I could get a list of,
Yeah.
if that's helpful, of the women's sober houses, the men's sober houses.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Are there
helpful.
collaborations with these groups? It seems like if they're setting up for Abington residents and your
Yeah.
goal is to set them up either in the community or outside of the
Right.
community, that almost seems like, that a little bit makes me feel less, I'm not concerned, but less surprised that somebody from outside of town is trying
Yeah.
to get money allocated for Abington residents. It seems like just because her group is out of town, it doesn't seem like she's not trying to help Abington residents. So I'm just, certain nonprofits and certain organizations, they collaborate to, there's strength and safety in numbers. I guess
Yeah,
is
like-
what does that make sense?
Plymouth
Yeah.
County
I'm just trying to,
Outreach.
right, so that would be my,
It is surprising that if it's Marshfield, they didn't, it is surprising to me.
yep, yep.
I mean, they might have applied to every town
Right.
in the South Shore.
It's what, I almost
I just
feel like a
haven't,
little
so I also work for Hingham, and like I've sat on multiple meetings with
Yeah.
towns, what
Yeah.
they're doing with the money, and I've never heard of, it's, an outside organization
right,
from
right.
that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it yet,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Lindsay, I've got a question. If a program, part of what she's asking for affects one individual going to, or one family, like the bereavement program, isn't that out of the scope of this money? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm led to believe that the money helps groups that would help groups of individuals affected by, and not necessarily individuals, because those individuals have a right to go after the opioid suppliers on their own. Am I wrong?
So there is money specifically for bereavement, and so having.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yep, so having just taken a look at this, because I felt strongly that when we all sat down and saw it for the first time, is when, other than when I asked you to come sign it, I did not take a look at any of the applications prior to sitting down here today. I think, so for any of us to make any judgment without taking a look, I think we have to delve through what is allowed and what's not. And so, again, without going, yes, there is money specifically for bereavement through a different channel, but without going through the application and kind of going bullet by bullet and seeing what is being
Right,
asked
'cause
for.
Bereaved families is on there, though. From the, website, helping bereaved families is definitely on there.
Yep, again, just
Okay,
without.
I don't mean to be, but
No,
I
no,
just want to
no,
make
I
sure.
just, as a
And-
family member, I feel like I'm always gonna,
And there was
Fight for
another
the
one
families.
for the sober living scholarships. Again, that affects one individual at a time, right?
yep, yep,
And would that be part of this pot of money?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
so this, yep, so, yes.
Like, can I
guess
just
I'm-
say to be,
I'm-
sorry, go
I'm having
ahead.
a question is,
Yep.
if it affects one individual,
So,
don't they have a right to go to the opioid?
so it's Abington
Or-
Copes is asking for the money, not one individual asking this board for the money. And so what would happen is the money would be issued to Abington Copes, and then individuals would apply to Abington Copes. And so that's the designation
Okay.
between
I
how
don't
everything.
I don't mean to be, but I just
No.
want to
No.
make sure.
Yeah.
There-
Okay.
There's a lot of nuances to all of it, and so this is one of the, a big thing is now that we actually have applications in front of us, I think it's really important that we have that conversation with legal to make sure that we are following every step that this application is asking for, so that we're in compliance, the can't speak, applicants are in compliance with what they're asking for, and that if there is another way to get money, there is another channel for bereavement, we can make sure that is
Well,
addressed that way.
Yeah, to be honest, I expected questions, because
that's-
I didn't know how,
No, and
I didn't know how, do I write this, like,
And that's-
and show, like, what is it, the SMART?
Yep, and that's fair.
It's like, how do I do that,
And that's fair. So we know that at our next meeting, we'll have reps from all the applications here to answer questions. I think it's more than reasonable to have someone from COPES, yourself or someone else, be here and
They'll be here.
to answer the questions.
I'll ask someone else.
But I think,
Yes.
so that you're not on the spot today, trying to figure it out with us.
Well, sorry, could we have a conversation outside of this, just for help with that? Do you know what I'm saying?
As far as,
As far as, you want to show outcomes, well, I don't know how, can you help me?
yeah, so I can explain the SMART outcome, like the SMART goals and
Yeah,
all that. Yes,
right.
I can explain more in detail exactly what we're
Right.
looking for the SMART goal
Okay.
and all of that.
All right,
And
because I
one-
was
one other
like, how do I
question-
measure
sorry.
that?
One
Yeah.
other question, has nothing to do with you
Yep.
specifically, but we have 6 applications which exceed the amount of money that we can give, right? Can somebody ask the attorneys whether we can go into executive session to figure all this out? So that, I have and I'm thinking there are other people have a hard time trying to figure all this out in public.
My understanding, I will for sure ask, my understanding is nothing on this committee allows us to go into executive session.
That's what I'm assuming, but,
But we will find out.
because
We're not gonna get into details of any specific residents or anything like
Right,
that.
'cause-
Oh, yeah.
But one thing is Abington Copes, all the money goes back civically into Abington. Is that the same
Absolutely.
with the,
So that's what we need to find out
All the Abington Copes money goes back to supporting people from
from
Abington.
Abington, correct?
Right.
But, if someone's in a sober house in Braintree, technically the rent's going to whoever owns the sober house. I guess my questions are more just some definitions to review it. So for instance,
Fair enough, yeah.
what is standard room and board for someone staying in a sober house?
It's pretty expensive.
Yeah,
It's-
that's
it's,
stunning how expensive it is.
300 a week is what one of the women's houses in Weymouth just went up to, because
Yeah.
I recently did scholarship somebody. And men's sober house may even be $325. But then there's a $100 move-in fee as well, so you're probably looking at, I would hope to be able to, if able, like, to provide somebody with 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just like a tiny bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
Because people, I do feel from what I've heard, a lot of towns are giving those kind of scholarships, but it's so needed.
Yeah.
how
There's
many
so
on
many
average do
people.
you think you receive Out of curiosity, like on applications for assistance with housing or the similar situations where the money would be used?
How
Like
many
how
people?
often do you receive applications?
I don't know, because we're still trying to let people know we're here.
Okay.
But I have received in the last year probably about 12. And then, but like I said, I have someone on the board who owns a sober house, and he's getting asked all the time. But, you know, they're not from Abington, but I'm just saying, like, everybody's asking for them.
Is
But
it
this
John-
obviously.
Is it John Monahan?
No.
Okay.
No, he came to one of the meetings, Norfolk Sober Living.
Okay.
Ryan O'Connell, he came to one of the meetings with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, when someone is leaving detox and going to step-down services, it's like, all right, you need a place to live, but you can't go back to living with your old roommates necessarily. It's like these houses are so valuable if done correctly.
Right.
And I'm so glad that we've started to see kind of a shift towards some restricted oversight of these houses because, you know, again, if they're done right, they're fantastic.
Right.
But
Yeah.
they're just expensive.
Yes, yep.
Um,
And, you know, the price just I mean, when I heard it was 300, I was like, oh my gosh.
So the peer recovery social events, I know this is another important part because again, it's about breaking patterns and finding new friends and social
Celebrating
units. and-
recovery. You know,
Yeah.
you can have fun, just,
Yeah.
you know, you're sober, but you can still have fun.
Yeah, what type of events do you usually have or are you planning?
So we talked about in our meetings, we touched upon it, but I couldn't fully make it happen last year, at the Grove over the summer. I talked to Kelly over there and she said this was for last summer. She'd be more than happy, you know, just like music and food and all
Yeah.
that. But, I just didn't have the bandwidth to get it done last summer, so.
Okay. All right.
One more question. So you
Yeah.
said it was $300 a week, and you normally try to provide 2 weeks?
2,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep,
The trendline analysis youth survey.
yep.
Can you remind me, does the high school currently do a risk survey or survey?
They did one last year, but the results only went to the state. Abington didn't get their individual results.
Wow.
So I had a conversation with Kate over the summer, and we got to the bottom of that unfortunately,
Because there's a couple of big national surveys that go out.
National Youth Risk.
Yeah,
Behavior
but they
survey,
don't break
yeah.
it down by school level?
No, this specific one was for Massachusetts, but they do the national, and yes, you would get the
Okay.
results,
Okay.
Abington.
All
yeah.
right.
But we don't have anything now.
Okay. I will say, just as a side note, Copes put on a event for middle school kids, and it was beyond fun. I mean,
Yeah.
couldn't get the kids out of the place, so.
Planning events are kind of my thing.
Could you talk a little bit about Bright Solutions Consulting Group, what you were hoping to, or do you want to wait in on that one until next week?
Well, I can bring something in from them, you know, that kind of gives what they do, their scope of work, if that's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Rather than me saying, yeah, Bright Solutions, they're great, which they are, but,
Yeah.
you know, that would probably be helpful, I would imagine.
Okay. Those are my initial questions, just out of curiosity.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. All right. So we will get all of the executive session, making sure we reach out to each group, get a rep for our next meeting. Are we in a place that we feel, okay, we want to move on to the next agenda item? Do we want to continue discussing the applications we have in front of us to see if there's any glaring questions we have as a group that we want addressed from legal? Or anyone else prior to next meeting?
I
you
don't know if
remind-
we should have a set of some, remember who mentioned the standard questions, but I think that might be a good idea to keep things at least somewhat fair, and then we can go into detail if there are any other
I agree with
questions.
that.
And
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
so I'm not sure who had mentioned keeping the like having a set standard of questions that we can ask everybody, and then obviously it can go further on into more questioning, but I feel like at least then we're asking the same basic questions.
Yeah.
Maybe submit the questions.
Yeah.
For-
Like the one was obviously, how do you define
Success.
success? I love that one. I think we should talk about putting how the money stays in Abington. I don't, maybe it's just the other group that we have to actually question that because.
Money stay in Abington or support Abington specific.
Yeah, like I wanna know how it stays in Abington, or what that means. The Chiefs won at $40,000 something, and you've got 10.
So I have a question. Do we know the one from Marshfield, where was the money going to go to? Because it doesn't say like the one from Quincy. It says it would be.
Right, so they're looking for, they're looking to fund 7 sober living scholarships to pay for 6 weeks of rent, but it doesn't say specifically for who.
It's not for the town, it doesn't say it.
It doesn't say if they're looking to fund just,
Yeah,
Abington residents.
Can I just ask, or just say something of concern of?
Can it just wait till public comment? Okay, thank you.
This is,
So yeah, that one is, it doesn't say, it's scholarships, but my question is, as well, where, for who?
Exactly. Thank you.
Were there any questions on the, police, application?
Not at the moment.
Okay. On the school department, application?
Yeah, just like Rick said, if they could come in and.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm just
agree to.
saying to compile for now. And then on the health department's application. Okay.
Yeah, I think just, how the process would work. How do they get decided who gets one, how they get doled out, who maintains them, et cetera.
For the sandboxes?
Yeah.
I had put in to request enough for, every entity, private, restaurant and large box store, and put it out to managers, and store owners. If they're interested, it is a no cost to them, and the health department staff, would be the ones, with the store staff, to manage it. They would, if a dose was used, they could let us know. If it was used and EMS responded, we could find out, hey, this was used in different channels to let us know that it needs to be refilled. And then also, just doing the weekly checks to make sure that they were all there.
Okay.
Putting them in the public places that we know that high frequency use places from evidence-based.
That's what I was gonna ask, is if we
and
have,
other- Yep, and it's not necessarily from Abington, but just evidence-based from other towns.
yeah,
And traditionally, high-use areas, gas stations, public bathrooms.
And then I have another question, I'm not exactly sure what it is, how to say it, I should say. But if we have an organization and we decide that we can't, give $20,000, but we can only give, 10 or
That was the
15 to a
question I was
certain
gonna-
organization, what would you do differently, or what would you use the money, you know what I mean? If we can't, a good example, $20,000, so we're here, let's say we could only do
Oh, here, use
10
the
or
health
15.
department, because it's me
Yes,
and I'm sitting
yeah,
right
that is a
there.
great idea.
So I'm asking.
Let's say we don't have 38, because we don't have 38 businesses, for instance, like you say, we're
Yep.
just gonna put it out, let's say we.
So I'm asking for just shy of 10,000, so you guys are only gonna allot me 5,000. So
Yes.
I would I would get half the number, and then when more money becomes available, I would reapply for my other half that I had asked for.
So maybe putting that into a question to ask the,
Or if you thought that
Authorized.
my goal of 38 sandboxes was too lofty, it was too broad, too big, I would, okay, so fine, I'm gonna do that in half, and.
what would my question be to sound better to everybody else, I guess is,
Your scope of your work is very broad. Can you narrow it to decrease the amount of funding that you are seeking, because the amount we have right now is limited?
you were kind of,
Or in the alternative, if they have multiple things that they want, could we say we would allocate X for Y?
I think that's again,
And unfortunately, we can't give you Z.
yep,
And make sure that when you report to us that you've allocated that money to that specific three things that we allowed for.
and something to remember is that more money, these initial applications are just for that money that was allocated at fall town meeting.
Right.
Come Springtown meeting, more money will be allocated, and on the warrant, we are asking for the stabilization fund that we had asked to be put together, we are asking to get rid of because the state changed all of the guidelines of how this money can be spent to the way it was supposed to be done initially. So all the work we did in the fall to get it to be spent the way we wanted it to be, we have to undo to be able to spend it the way we want to be able to spend it.
So how's it gonna be kept now?
If our warrant passes the way it should, the way we want it to be done the entire time, where we get applications and we can approve it, like grant money. But we need that warrant item to go through.
So it won't go into a special
April
fund,
1st.
it'll just be,
It will not be in a stabilization fund, it will just be into the opioid settlement fund, and it can be spent as grant money.
hopefully we shouldn't see any, there's no like.
Nope, there should be
Yeah,
no
we
no
should-
delay on anything, but we did have to put that warrant item in because we had to put a special town meeting warrant item in the fall to be able to spend the money, and then the state fixed how the money could be spent. So we had to undo to correct from the fall.
Maybe we could take all these applications and kind of rack and stack and type notes and bring them back together and just interview all the applicants next month.
Okay? All right. Are we good to move on? All right. So I did send out for February's meeting, the minutes from November and January. So we should have had plenty of time to review those. So if we want to take a minute to look at both of them.
motion to approve when people are ready?
If I correct the date of November 13th, 2024 to 2023,
Yep.
Besides that.
besides that,
This is right.
no, it's always miss.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Not in life, but here.
And meeting open at 3:02 PM.
Okay. Okay. With those corrections, if they are made, are we,
Motion to approve with corrections?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And moving on to January 8th,
Move to approve.
with the corrections of PM.
Yep.
Do I have,
Motion to approve as amended?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
The meeting, the minutes will be submitted once amended.
Peter? Peter, do you have a question about where their minutes are being kept?
I assume they're in the library, right?
They are.
Okay, cool.
All right. It's a big deal in our charter review.
Oh, they are very much in the library, yes.
where most aren't.
Including charter reviews.
I need to put my binder back in the library as well.
They are there. It is a black binder, now with a white label, because it was just Sharpie. You couldn't read it. Okay, so the next agenda item, we had Kevin Stevens was going to be here, and he is not, so we're going to move on to new business. I had a call from a serious,
Are you serious?
get his last name, and I'm so sorry. This gentleman called from Allied Connect, looking to see how we distributed opioid settlement fund money. This company connects therapists to first responders in a confidential way through an app, and was looking to be able to come and speak to the committee. So he asked if he could be put on the agenda for the next meeting. I said he is more than welcome to come chat with us. I might see if he wants to come, not in April, but maybe in May, just where we're gonna have a packed agenda next month where we're gonna be reviewing applications. But very interesting concept where it's really hard for first responders who see very specific trauma to get with therapists who understand and then can deal with that trauma and actually understand what they're going through and be able to provide the correct pathway for treatment. And so this is, a couple other municipalities have reached out and used Allied Connect to connect their first responders to support them. And so he reached out to see if he could chat. So I think it is more than appropriate for him to come talk to us and see what he has to say.
On that note, I'd be very interested to learn how other towns are spending their allocations as well. I don't think there's any main database being kept, but I would love to know what other towns, if anyone's come up with anything new or novel or.
Yeah, I can tell you,
Creative.
just in talking to, I've been at some training recently, that Sandwich, I do know that Sandwich has hired a couple counselors. I'm not sure that it's through Allied Connect, but they did hire trauma certified counselors for their first responders. They were having a hard time getting first responders to seek help through their EAP, because it's peer-to-peer. And so they hired an outside counselor, and they have gotten nothing but incredible reviews about her, and morale has gone up. I believe it was also Sandwich that hired counselors for the school with their money as well.
Okay.
The Rentham, Norfolk, that group used money for sandboxes. I want to say it was Woburn, Waltham, Wilmington, a bunch of the W towns also bought sandboxes. We get those emails often that those were purchased.
The Weymouth just got some, and they started putting them in around.
Weymouth is the other W town that just did it. All the W towns. Whitman will be next. No, I don't actually know that that's true or not. Anyone else with new business? No? Public comment, Mary, do you want to come up?
Yeah, sure. I didn't know what a sandbox was,
Oh.
but that wasn't it. I just have,
Can you, I know we all know you, but can you just
Yeah.
name and address? Sorry.
Mary DeRamo, 122 Buckboard Lane, Abington. When I hear about outside towns applying for something for Abington, I know Melissa and her group's been going on for a couple of years now, and when they send somebody to a sober living home, that it has its standards and they're obeyed. But, I don't know if you guys realize that sober homes can be a big cash market and can be abusive and can be, to its residents. And if we're going to have outside towns, sober living places come in and talk with us about I just want to make sure that there is a standard, because sometimes even the MASH homes are not what they should be. We can't just say, MASH home, they're fine. It's not that way out in the real world. So I just had concerns about that, and I just wanted to put you guys, raise your level on that,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
okay? And so what's sandboxes?
Sandboxes, so I can,
What's
give you,
that?
so they are the Narcan, containment.
Oh.
They are it's a lockbox.
Yeah, oh, okay.
That,
All right,
give you
I know
that.
what they are.
They're named Sandbox because of the Good Samaritan law.
Oh.
And so it is a plastic
I know.
box that
Yeah.
has, that locks, it's
Yeah.
weather tight.
Okay.
And it contains everything you would need, the Narcan, the instructions, gloves, all of it.
And who refills the Narcan?
It would be the health, in Abington, it would be
Yeah.
the health department.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to pay for that, right?
Nope.
Okay, good. Okay.
Kind of like
just
how
making
the
sure.
AEDs you
Yes.
see up on the wall now.
Right.
It's kind of
Yes, okay.
similar,
I see.
So the Sandbox
Thank you.
itself, we pay for.
Yeah.
But the Narcan does not
Okay.
we get.
Beautiful.
Free of charge.
Yeah.
But it is the no-locks box. You
Yes.
see a lot of places.
Right.
This is a municipal partnership between Kevin Fullerton he used to be up in, I forget the town. He was a health director. He now works for Mayflower Recovery and
Okay.
Nalox Box. They came up with the Sandbox.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
Friends of mine have a sandbox, but their cat uses it.
The sand. All right. And our final thing, the next regularly scheduled meeting, so, I'm sorry, I have to just look at my phone. So it would be April 8th, the second Monday of April at 3 PM. So we will see everyone then, and I will send emails to every applicant, asking them to join us. And
I
yes,
just have one more question. Will the applications be public record? Can we see the applications that were?
that's a great question, I'm gonna have to ask legal.
Yeah, I'd like to know, yeah.
That's a great
All right.
question.
Okay, good, good. We'll find out.
All right, any further question?
motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are meeting adjourned at 3:47.